You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. Hello there, and welcome to Talk Star Wars, episode 198 from Emotionally14.com. I'm your host, as always, Rob Wade, and I'm joined by the true to my Haan. It is Brad Hummer Barnes.
Hello.
Hey there.
The K2SO to your Cassian Andor.
Yeah, that works too.
Except you're the tall one.
Yeah, exactly. There is that, and
yeah.
I don't know what your ancestry's like. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Any Latino? I don't know.
I thought I'd have to wait till next week to start answering these sort of questions.
I guess, but yeah. How's things? All right?
Yeah, all good in my hood.
Okay, cool.
I was looking for a punchline and my brain offered me none, so
yeah,
it's gonna be a good night.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think I can already tell, but this is part of take two.
It's going to be an anti-joke episode. So
yeah, well, this was take two after I flubbed the intro. So
yeah,
you know, nobody will ever hear that.
I love anti-jokes, so
yeah, who doesn't, right? They're good fun.
Yeah.
So
or not?
Well, who can say? Indeed, people who know. That's who can say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of iTunes reviews. Now,
really?
Yeah, I'm going to
listen to. It's amazing.
I'm going to preface that I'm not sure. I may have read the first one before. It's quite an old one, but I'm just going to go ahead and read it and just hope
every episode someone's first. You could theoretically start every episode just rattling off our greatest achievements.
This is true, but then, you know, what would we talk about for the rest of the time? Because that takes up 8 minutes.
By that time, we've already proved it was worth listening to.
True story. So the first one reads, great playlist ad. 5 stars. We listened to one episode and immediately...
My name's not Ed.
No, I know. But it's part of your name.
I guess so, yeah. I've never really considered that before.
No, clearly. So we listened to one episode and immediately subscribed. It's fun, entertaining, and timely. I'm not sure... timely is not an adjective I'd usually associate with a 5-star podcast. Just good time. Maybe they found it at a good time in their lives.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Side bits like news within the fandom is fantastic as well, and that's from Pat and Charles at the Conversations podcast. That's
I like that.
SW with a capital. Yeah, Conversations podcast from the States. So, Pat and Charles, thank you very much for that. It's very kind of you to write that in, and it sounds like there's a Star Wars podcast in that. So.
Yeah,
I think there might be a subtle bit of advertising.
I'm sure they can subscribe.
Absolutely, give it a lick.
Yeah.
So
really go for it.
Absolutely,
go to town.
Just go. It's your birthday. I mean,
saturate it.
Absolutely. So the second reads one of the best Star Wars podcasts. 5 stars.
What's this one of, Poodoo?
It took me a while to find this podcast, but it's worth the wait. Both hosts are insightful and respectful of all opinions and always try to see the value in others' perspectives. There is no other Star Wars podcast I wish to listen to.
I think you've written that for a wrong show, haven't they?
I don't know. Who knows? But that's from SD Reckon on Apple Podcasts from Canada. So thank you very much for that. It's very kind of you. You know, it's fair to say, I think, in the last couple of months that the reviews and feedback and stuff have been a bit less... You know, they've been a bit up and down. So some people have found some of the points of view a little harder to listen to. So it's nice when people appreciate what we're doing. So it's nice. Not that I'm suggesting that the people who give us 2 and 3 star reviews don't appreciate what we're doing, because they do tend to. There's something about, I don't know what it is. There's something about reviews I've noticed when it comes to people reviewing Talk Star Wars. They always kind of, if they give anything under 5, they always do it with this kind of air of like, oh, I really don't want to, which is kind of, you know, it's kind of sweet. I quite like. You know, I like that. People sort of always sound like they're begrudgingly criticizing. It's like, I don't want to say it, but since you twisted my arm, Apple, I guess, indirectly by putting the review box there and the star rating that you insist on for a review. You can't just have a review that's just text. Although maybe that would, allow people to game it less. But then at the same time, we wouldn't get nearly as many 5s. So there's that. Yeah,
exactly. In fact, just give us 5s.
Well,
if you don't want to give us a 5, where the spoons are.
Crosstalk, I love it. And obviously
encouraging the TSW expanded universe.
Why not? Why not indeed? So the offer still stands as far back as episode 1 of Talk Star Wars. If you write a 5-star review, we read them as they are. So if you want to get a plug in, as Pat and Charles have no doubt done, then that's the way to do it, because we'll, like I say, we'll read it if it's 5 stars. It's a nice little.
To write one now.
I mean, there's probably nothing stopping you. They don't. Apple won't have any way of knowing.
I know I will get shut down if I write Amazon reviews. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but then at the same time, that's a little.
And we're going to track it back. So I could just put a 5-star review you've got to read out loud, and just be something like, "Oh, look at me, I'm Rob Wade."
Yeah, exactly. Why not? I mean that's something that people could theoretically entirely do.
Yeah,
and for all I know,
all of you listening to this is what you need to do: do a 5-star review and literally just write, "Oh, look at me, I'm Rob Wade." This means next episode he's going to have to do that like 40 times in a row.
Oh, hilarious!
Yeah, it will be by 38th, mate.
Oh yeah, I'll be absolutely by about 15 or 16. I'll just be rolling up. You won't even be able to. You won't even know. Like just.
Then we're going to go with my idea of the start of every episode, reading out all of the reviews we've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then by each episode, it just gets longer and longer of him just saying, "Ooh, look at me, I'm Rob Wade," in a series of silly accents.
Yeah, I mean there is that possibility.
By the 7th hour,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is a good possibility that after a couple of weeks I might say, "Do you mind if we pre-record this bit?" Because it is keeping me up until 6
to do a jingle.
It is keeping me up until 6 the following morning doing an edit.
Get Blake to record a jingle and he'll pronounce Wade wrong.
Yeah, well, Oh, look at me, I'm Rob Wade.
How did we both know? Yeah.
There's only so many places you can go with that surname.
Oh, yeah. Man, we're so in sync. We're like lovely boys of comedy.
I know, right? So our first message this week comes from Vesuvi. And Vesuvi writes, "Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad.
You're welcome, Vesuvi.
I'm so glad you'll be getting Disney Plus a little sooner than originally announced."
Yeah,
not long now. Yeah, it's not long now. What is it, 6 weeks? Yeah, 6 weeks.
That sounds good.
That's exciting. "It was lovely to hear your favourite tidbits from Star Wars movies. As I don't recall you mentioning it, I had my hands full in the kitchen as I listened to episode 197. I'll add one. As the Millennium Falcon approaches Takodana in The Force Awakens, when Rey utters through awe, I didn't know there was this much green in the whole galaxy, and then how Han looks at her empathetically. Cheers, Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth."
Have you ever seen the behind-the-scenes shot of that?
I haven't, no. It's just is it a green screen?
It's a green screen.
Amazing. Yeah. And is that why Han looks at her? She's never seen movie-making equipment before. I think I really liked that when The Force Awakens was first kind of, in the cinemas, and I'd seen it a few times. I think where it lost its luster over time for me is that look didn't mean what I expected it to mean. I thought there might be more to it, and there wasn't. And I was kind of like, that's kind of, it lost a little bit of something for me as a result. Just a little, it just kind of took the shine off it a little bit. I was hoping it would be some kind of, Han knew more than he was letting on about Rey's, origins, which I'm sure they've probably retconned now, but it certainly didn't feel that way after Last Jedi.
No,
it's one of those. P.S. Nice to know Peter Serafinowicz was gracious when Rob nearly walked over him. He's nearly as tall as you, right? The internet says he's 192 centimetres.
I guess he's about the same height as you, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a couple of inches short.
A bit over 200. Yeah, a bit over 2 metres.
198 or 201, I forget. Okay, whichever one. It depends on whether you bill me as 6'6" or 6'7". My wrestling height is like 8.5 foot, I think, something like that. But because they always book, they always book them a little taller. But then at the same time, they take shots to the net constantly. So I imagine they probably get shorter over their career anyway.
I mean, there's got to be some science to that.
I would think that's entirely possible. I think, in fact, I'd be very surprised if that's not what happens. PPS. It's especially sweet to learn that you both independently utilised Across the Stars in your respective wedding ceremonies.
Well, the Imperial March was frowned on.
Well, indeed, yeah. And the Cantina Band was apparently considered inappropriate for that particular type of discussion. So,
I know, but, there's always my funeral to look forward to, as I keep telling everyone who loves me.
What makes it bleak is when you just go, any day now.
He's pre-booked it.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I knew you could prepay. Didn't realise you could pick a date. Bizarre.
Oh, so dedicated am I to comedy. I'm now contemplating suicide just to make this funnier.
Yeah, don't do that. All right, Paddy Archie. Tim Burton's Talk Star Wars here. We did. We both used Across the Stars in our respective wedding ceremonies.
We did.
Yeah. Was yours your wife's idea or your idea?
It was a playlist I put together independently because it was what was playing over house music as before my wife arrived. So obviously myself and my brother as my best man were there greeting people as they turned up, and it was just part of the house music at that point. So Charlie wasn't involved for that particular one.
Okay.
We mutually agreed to use the throne room music to exit the venue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the medal awarding ceremony.
Yeah, we used that walking back down.
Yeah, it's just when you say throne room, obviously there's also the Emperor's theme from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
making sure.
We really balls that up and ended up with just 12 and throat singing everywhere.
I'm here to bless your nuptials. I'm not late, am I? Parking was an absolute pain. Large Star Destroyer. Sorry about that. Nobody else can park, you see. So Vesuvi also sent us a spoiler-free Resistance roundup, and it looks quite likely that this is going to be the last one for some time because it's the series finale.
Ooh.
So,
I didn't say there was only going to be 2 series of Resistance. Am I right in thinking that?
Actually, you might be right. This might be the last one ever. Oh, blimey. I didn't think of that. Yeah. I think you might be onto something there. All right, well, this may well, strap yourselves in, this may well be the last one ever to grace our ears. The series finale was presented in an hour-long format, consisting of the Escape Part 1 and the Escape Part 2.
That's tedious.
I know. Well, it's just, always impressed by how smoothly that all ends up hanging together. Helps a lot.
Yeah.
I will only say that the swan song begins with Tam witnessing the First Order decimating a settlement of folk we met earlier this season. This is the last straw for her. She realizes she's not where she should be, and she conscripts a mouse droid to aid her in sending a coded transmission to the Colossus. It escalates to a thrilling and consequential conclusion. I certainly shan't spoil the details. Now that the series has ended, I will speak broadly about what I think it accomplished. In some ways, it was just as compelling as any other animated Star Wars series. It only felt too kiddie when it showcased Kaz's clumsiness, which rivaled that of Jar Jar Binks. But Kaz was the only one with such an overtly irritating quality, and it wasn't his only characteristic. The rest of the cast were interesting, varied, and often endearing, and there were stakes. Deaths did occur. But the main theme, I'd say, was it illustrated the fact that thousands of tiny resistance cells are scattered out in the galaxy doing what they do. They might not always be directly connected to the main battle scene in the movies, but their contributions are just as important, because a galaxy-wide struggle would take a galaxy of effort, to every degree. We're all in this together. Do what you can do. Every little victory is a victory. So, I hope my friends in the UK and other places who haven't gotten it yet get to see it someday and judge for yourselves. I hope you appreciate it as I did. May the Force be with us. P.S. In the Buckets List video over on the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel, it was confirmed that among the countless ships in the Battle of Exegol, Kaz's Fireball, Jarek Yeager's Racer, and Toradoza's Blue Ace can be spotted by eagle-eyed viewers, hinting at what more happened with characters from the Colossus after the events of the finale. So there you go. It's nice. So, Resistance, it seems, has finished. So,
Cool.
As Vesuvi kind of alludes to, the series has ended. So hopefully we'll get to see it at some point soon and actually be able to enjoy ourselves.
I'm excited.
It'd be nice. How are you, out of interest, how are you going to consume The Mandalorian? If, as I suspect, it will be available immediately in full, bearing in mind that it's been 4 months since it was released originally.
I'm not in an ideal world. I think I'd probably just binge it all over a couple of days. But I'm also quite lazy when it comes to TV shows. It takes me a while. I struggle to watch more than like a couple of episodes of something back to back. I have to go and do something else or watch something else in the meantime. Okay. Like I've done like 3 episodes of The Witcher, and that came out before Christmas.
Yeah, I'm only on episode 1 of that so far. I do plan to do more, but
it is very, very, very. Speaking as a fan of books, it is very, very good.
Yeah.
Even like I think all the shows I'm like series behind. Also, I was thinking what will probably happen is I'll subscribe to Disney Plus, do like the first episode and a half, and then 8 weeks down the line, maybe do the next one.
Okay.
Yourself?
Yeah, I'm thinking. As much as I found myself kind of normally I tend to go with things like that for commutes. So I tend to do as many episodes I can get done in commutes as long as it takes. Yes. So with Stranger Things, for example, because that's one of the more recent ones I've watched on the train, my commute's about right for the length of one episode. So I would do one on the way there, one on the way back, and I would get through a series in about a week. Mm-hmm. With The Mandalorian, I'm actually kind of tempted to stick with the format that they originally presented when it was released in the States. So one a week for 8, I think it's 8 weeks. I think it's 8 episodes. That sounds about right. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of tempted to do that. But then at the same time, I have other ideas about things that might mean I want to watch it quicker. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it there for now. But I'm finding myself kind of torn between should I watch it? You know, obviously I'm already behind. Yeah, I've been sticking to my guns on not watching it ahead of time, and I've been obviously hearing about it, and of course it's impossible to avoid spoilers because, you know, Star Wars Twitter. Yeah, or just into it, Twitter in general, to be honest, like because a lot of the stuff tends to bleed. Obviously, things like the child bleed over into everything.
How can you not?
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely. I mean, I can totally understand it, but at the same time, obviously, it's kind of it's left me a little bit torn about which way to go because, as I say, normally I would say I'm going to go and just watch it over the course of a few days. You know, like I say, in terms of commutes, I can probably get through at least 1, maybe 2 episodes in each journey. Right. So I could do the entire series in 2 days, but just doing 2 each commute for 2 days. But I'm actually kind of intrigued by the idea of going with the one a week, sort of the original kind of classic running order. We'll see. Yeah. I've got 6 weeks to make my mind up. So, you know, I just wanted to know what your thoughts were kind of at this stage, how you kind of...
It's not something I've given a lot of thought, to be honest.
No, fair enough. I mean, you got other stuff to think about. So we got a message on Twitter from a lovely man called Steve, who's part of a tabletop gaming podcast called We're Not Wizards. So you might be familiar with him. Yes. Yeah, indeed. I quite like it. I quite like this show. I've listened to it a fair few times. And he'd heard our latest show, so he was talking about it on Twitter. Cool. And it says, "Morning, gents. Listening to the latest show. Great stuff. A good nostalgia trip. Regarding Coruscant in the new trilogy, from memory, the New Republic capital goes to the Chancellor's home system, and the guy in charge is on Hosnian Prime. The girl you see on the balcony is Leia's envoy to the Republic, trying to get them to help with the First Order. Hopefully that accurately covers what I recall from the visual dictionary. It should be more obvious in the movie, though, I feel."
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's kind of how I understood it as well.
Her name, she was in a book set just before Force Awakens came out. It's totally slipped my mind.
She's in the novelisation of Force Awakens because they have an extra chapter at the beginning which basically details Leia sending her in her place because Leia's supposed to be going. Yeah, but then she sends.
Yeah, I'm still pretty sure. It looks so much like Coruscant. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have been Coruscant and then it may be like the first or second draft it was Coruscant and then they changed it at the last moment for whatever reason, which is why it looks so much like Coruscant. That's an easy retcon to make.
Entirely possible,
But I agree completely with Steve. I think when they made that decision, they should have made it more obvious.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And, I think it's entirely plausible that you're absolutely right. And that's kind of how it played out. And, as you say, I would be very surprised. In fact, I think it's actually not possible for it to have been intended to be Coruscant in the final film because I'm fairly sure they reference Hosnian by name. Do they even do that? I don't even know. But I think they do. So feel free, obviously, people to, if I've got that wrong, to correct me. But I think they reference the Hosnian system by name in the film. So obviously there's not going to be a retcon that's been done kind of after the fact, but it's entirely possible that you're right and it was in a draft, you know, an early draft as Coruscant. They go, you know what, you know, it makes the galaxy feel small.
Got plans for Coruscant.
Maybe they did.
I'm still pretty sure Skywalker Base was supposed to have been Ilum, and they changed that at the last minute so they could do something else with Ilum.
Oh no, that's been confirmed, I think, now. As it actually is Ilum. I think in the visual dictionary it's been...
so they've switched that around like 2 or 3 times now then.
Let me just... I'm sure that's written down somewhere. Let me just... I'm going to have to check this in real time. So the trouble is you get ILM, which... There you go. Yeah, it's in the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary.
Okay.
So I'll read it. So this is about... okay, yeah, so I'll read you the excerpt from the description of Ilum from The Rise of Skywalker. Properly energized, kyber crystals create containment fields that hold and amplify power to incredible levels. The Empire controlled several kyber-rich worlds, funneling their resources into the Tarkin Initiative's Death Star development. One unique world in the unknown regions, Ilum, had a kyber crystalline core. Most of its more easily accessible deposits were scoured, but there were even larger crystals buried deeper beneath the surface. The First Order continued its excavations and gradually transformed Ilum, a revered Jedi world since antiquity, into an instrument of unfathomable destruction.
Okay.
So there you go.
So I'm sure that came up earlier and it was revealed it wasn't. But,
I think it was... I don't know whether it was ever confirmed not to be or just never acknowledged.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like because sometimes they actually flat out say that's not accurate, and then sometimes they just kind of go, well, we're not saying, you know, we don't want to say for sure, or they just don't say anything. They just stay completely silent on the subject.
Okay.
But apparently that is Ilum, or was, more accurately. Fine. Somebody I think
it makes more sense than it is to me.
Yeah, and back in there, I seem to recall that somebody had looked at the galaxy map and figured out that it was Starkiller Base was in that rough position anyway. So I think it was always kind of, you know, strongly suspected and just never actually formally confirmed until now. Or who knows? You know, maybe it started off one way and then ended up the next. It's entirely possible because I'm pretty sure they have. I'd have to go digging and do a fair bit of research, which I don't really have the time, energy, or inclination for. But I'd be willing to bet there's something in new canon that contradicts new canon.
Yeah, of course there is.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, this whole so the announcement this week is obviously that there's a Poe Dameron book. So it's going to be a new Poe Dameron expanded universe story set in his young adulthood, which is going to touch on the stuff that was mentioned in Rise of Skywalker about him being a spice runner, or deal with that period of time, because Zori Bliss is also confirmed to be in it. Now, I seem to recall that Poe Dameron is the son of 2 Republic military heroes, and it strikes me as odd that he wouldn't have just been a military brat.
Well, he may be. In fact, I said to you off air, it's totally possible the spice runner thing could have had to pose as a spice runner for some the kind of way that also the name of the girl was pretended she was married to Han Solo in the comics.
Sana.
Sana, thank you.
I don't remember her real surname, but Sana Solo, obviously. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. So an angle like that could work.
Yeah, totally. And when as you mentioned it to me earlier on, because when you say off air, this was just a conversation that was happening between 2 friends over a course of a normal day. I'm sure everybody out there happens.
We talk Star Wars all the time. It's just sometimes you're lucky enough for microphones to be on.
Well, this is it.
Stop swearing for 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I have faith in you.
Yeah,
I always have.
Still?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you generally don't drop the ball that often, so it's fine. And you generally pretty apologetic when you do. So
I've gotten really good at it, mate.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, and glad I noted it. But yeah, as I mentioned to you when you pitched it when we were talking about it earlier, I quite like that as a and that explains the disappearance as well. Yeah, because totally. Job's done, mission's over, off you go. Disappears away from view and then leaves Zori Bliss to kind of deal with that, which is not the best, but at the same time,
got some nerves turning up after the stunt he pulled.
Well, quite, They didn't use those lines directly, which was probably for the best, because people would have been looking for things to nitpick, and that would have been a doozy.
Yeah. Maybe everyone's related to Lando.
Well, I do put it about. Hey there, BB-8. Know much about your mother? Yeah, because that's not how robots work. But yeah, it's fine.
It's not.
Yeah. So our next message is we had a couple of messages about last week's episodes. People seem to really like it, which is nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do more then.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a couple of, depending on how we're doing for time, by the time we get there, we may have a couple more of the questions off my little bank to work through, or maybe I'll go with one and see how we get on, and maybe I can bank the rest for another time for slow news weeks and slow engagement weeks. So this comes from Andy in the UK.
Hello, Andy in the UK.
Hey, Rob and Brad. That was weird. It was like he was listening. But we hadn't happened yet. Oh, no, I've gone cross-eyed. Really enjoyed the chat of your favourite bits and pieces from the last episodes. Always nice to hear people talk about what they love about Star Wars. I thought I'd add my selections from Rise of Skywalker. Whilst not my favourite of the saga by any means, there's a couple of bits I feel really strongly about that I wanted to mention. Favourite character, Babu Frick. Yay. I think one thing the Disney era has really excelled at is the range of these tactile practical effects characters. I mean, who doesn't love this guy? He's one of my oldest friends.
Yeah.
I really like Babu Frick.
Yeah.
I think Babu Frick's fantastic. Just
whoever does the Star Wars app needs to update the soundboard as soon as possible.
Yeah, to get some Babu in there.
Yeah.
Get some Frick love.
Yeah.
But also I remember quite liking Dio. It was kind of, it was less is more. Dio wasn't in the movie as much as I thought it would be. And when it was, I found the whole thing of like, nope, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
I just quite enjoyed that as a as a mechanic, rather than having it sort of really eloquent or anything like that. I just kind of liked the idea that it could just communicate in. There's like Bumblebee, because Bumblebee in the Transformers movies can only communicate in songs because he uses the radio to communicate. Just it kind of like, it felt a bit like that, but kind of smaller and cuter. So there's that.
Yeah, cool.
Favorite scene? It's got to be the scene between Ben and Han, framed perfectly against that awesome crash Death Star, using the same dialogue from The Force Awakens, building up to Dad. Harrison Ford plays it perfectly as the nonchalant yet poignant Han Solo we know and love. Yes, as mentioned in last week's episode, this can essentially be construed as Ben forgiving himself, but that fact that it was Leia's last act to make him see Han and plays out in that manner really stands powerfully. The Rise of Skywalker didn't resonate with me emotionally as much as I wanted it to, but this scene definitely did. Cool. It's a good scene. Yeah. Let's say the thing of Ben forgiving himself using Han as a ghost puppet, notwithstanding, it is a well done scene, and the kind of callbacks to the dialogue from Force Awakens and everything like that was really well done. I liked that quite a bit. That was one of those things when I read it, because obviously, as people who listened to a few episodes back will know, I read quite a detailed plot synopsis that ended up being pretty much exactly right. In fact, it might well have been spot on identical. I did go back looking for it after the fact to see how much it was, but I couldn't find it anywhere.
Okay.
But that was one of the things when I read it on the page, I thought, oh, this sounds awful. And then on screen, it was really good. Yeah. There was some stuff where I read it on the page and went, oh, this doesn't sound much good at all. And then it played out and I was like, that was not much good at all. But that scene was not one of those things. I thought that one was just, that worked for me in terms of visual execution. And it kind of tailed back nicely to The Force Awakens. It kind of had that thread running through that I quite liked, because I like it when films do that, especially trilogies. I'm quite a fan of that sort of stuff. Favorite music? The piece is called Farewell and is used when Rey is collapsed after defeating Palpatine. It starts with Rey's theme in a somber tone as she lays on the ground and bleeds beautifully into Kylo Ren's theme. Oh, sorry, as I was reading, I just went, oh no, that's not, the intonation's all wrong. It starts with Rey's theme in a somber tone as she lays on the ground and bleeds beautifully into Kylo Ren's theme as he's crawling towards her. Initially, I read that as she lays on the ground and bleeds into Kylo Ren's theme. I was like, ugh, I can't show that. Grim. accentuated with layers of strings as he takes more steps towards Rey. It's an outstanding blend of the themes, which really makes that scene, and for me, adds far more to their journey. I think the score in general for Rise of Skywalker is underrated, but this piece carries emotional weight and sonically sells the dyad in the Force between the two wonderfully. I have to go back and listen to that soundtrack, because that's one of the ones I'm the least familiar with, because obviously having only seen the movie once, despite my best efforts.
Yeah.
And I don't generally go back and do the soundtracks separately for the most part. Some of them I have. Force Awakens I did a little bit, mainly because the first one in the trilogy, everything was swirling about all these little bits and pieces. Do you remember when Rey's theme made her a Kenobi? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
No.
It was a thing. It was a thing. People were saying, "Oh, there's Kenobi's themes in there." I was like, "Is it though?" Or are you just hearing? Do you remember when John Williams
was talking?
You remember when John Williams wrote all the songs and occasionally will reuse the same notes because there's only 10?
12, yeah, 12.
12. There you
go. Wait, 11. Because the two of them are the same.
Well, the sharps and flats are the same, yeah.
There's 11 notes.
Yeah,
because I counted 12 to E's at either end.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay. I see what you mean. So people were kind of making connections and some of them made perfect sense, right? Snoke's theme had throat singing in it. Palpatine's teachings had throat singing.
True.
But that was talking about, that was when he's talking about Plagueis. Maybe Snoke has something to do with Plagueis. And he kind of indirectly does.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, not in a way that is as good as I think just doing it.
Snoke being Tarkin was one that stuck in my mind.
There's some
famous
stuff.
Force user Tarkin.
Yeah, of course, big on. Having said that, did he... I'd have to go back and watch Force Awakens again, but I don't remember him using the Force in any visible way.
Or only that he is Kylo Ren's master.
Yeah, but then at the same time, if he's
he doesn't force choke anyone over the radio or anything. Yeah, okay, possibly. I don't think you do.
No, at one point it crossed my mind the possibility that he might not actually be a Force user and he might just be a bit of a sort of, a
Wizard of Oz type deal.
Yeah, there was we were all kind of Wizard of Oz theme running with that whole giant hologram thing.
Yeah, totally.
I think I was always of the impression that he was going to still, if he saw him on screen, he was going to be a big chap. But I thought there was definitely the sense that the hologram was used to kind of make him even more of significance. But there was a lot of that doing the rounds around the time of between The Force Awakens and Last Jedi. Certainly in that first 6 to 9 months after the film. There's a lot of good Talk Star Wars episodes about that stuff, so people can feel free to go back and have a listen.
It was fun to play along. It was kind of like a Who Shot Mr. Burns type deal.
Absolutely, yeah. It was like that for about 2 years. It was great.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that nobody shot Mr. Burns, and the bullets averted your expectations. So there's that. And then Andy continues. Favorite line: the aforementioned "Dad, I know." Cheers from Andy.
But is it as good as "Hey"?
I think we all know the answer that nothing can possibly be as good as "Hey." I don't know. Maybe Lando had a good zinger somewhere. I don't remember. Yeah. But I remember, I much as I loved Lando's bit in the film, I don't remember him having any.
Hey.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing certainly to that degree of gravitas. So yeah, Andy, thank you very much for your first email. Into Talk Star Wars, certainly the first that I can recall, unless you've done one before and I just missed it. But long may it continue. And then our next message comes from Dave in Australia. This is a man who has written in before. So Dave writes, "G'day, fellas. Thanks so much for bringing back so many memories with your favourites list in the last episode. Without going into each category for a particular movie, I just wanted to offer my best characters for the OT films.
Shoot.
For me, A New Hope is Leia's movie. She's staunch and strong and a true female lead. She's 110% behind the cause even after her homeworld is destroyed. She battles on bravely with the end goal in mind. Empire is Han's movie. The film starts off showing us that he's developed and become a true leader. It's even mentioned by General Riken on Hoth when Han tells him he has to leave. In Empire, we see his piloting skills in the asteroid field, a peek into his smuggler history with Lando, and also we see his softer side with the "I love you, I know" moment. Return of the Jedi is Luke's film. He too has grown and accepted the fact that Vader is his father. He has put the ferocity of Vader aside to commit himself to his father's redemption. He is tested and tempted by the dark side, but stands strong against it, all the time, as always, having the well-being of his friends in mind. Anyway, my question to you this week is regarding the sequel trilogy. Would you think that the films and the saga in general would have more gravitas if they had included the death of Finn in Last Jedi and Chewie in The Rise of Skywalker? I know it's Disney and we have young audiences in mind, but we've seen the death of Han Solo, which to me gave The Force Awakens some real feeling and credibility, and in A New Hope we saw the death of Obi-Wan, which at the time was also very shocking, and Luke's response still gives me tingles down the spine. In The Last Jedi, when Finn is flying towards the cannon on Crate, I couldn't help but think, wow, they're going to do this. They're going to give this character a heroic sacrifice. This is going to turn this film around. Enter Rose Tycho. Yeah. What was our line for that? We used to have a line for that scene.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah, and she would just turn up and just smack you. You're walking towards you're walking towards the buffet. She just runs in, smacks you over. Just don't do that.
Her part in that is so jarring because she kind of comes as don't make heroic sacrifices after we've just seen Admiral Holdo make a heroic sacrifice and directly before we see Luke Skywalker make a heroic sacrifice.
Have we seen him make the sacrifice yet, or is that still to come?
Who, sorry?
Luke. I think that's after. Because isn't it when they've all been sort of pinned back?
We see Holder make a heroic sacrifice.
Yep.
Rose stops Finn saying, don't do that.
Yep.
And then Luke goes and makes another heroic sacrifice. It just kind of highlights how pointless that scene is.
And then Rose just looks at Luke and just goes, what did I just say?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Oh, nobody listens to me. It's rubbish.
Wonder what?
Dave continues.
Yeah.
In The Rise of Skywalker, we're made to believe Chewie, my favourite childhood character, is killed at the hands of Rey's dark side electric powers, and my heart sank.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. As much as I'd be saddened by the death of one of the saga's most iconic characters, I would have appreciated it so much more for the bravery of the directors to go ahead with it. Daisy Ridley nails the emotion she feels when she realises what she's done, and it adds a real weight to the story. But alas, it didn't feel like those in the story teams had the bravery to go through with both deaths. In a way, it felt like they sort of cheapened the story and the characters, particularly with Chewie, where the excuse of a second transport ship in the area seemed way too easy. I think these two moments could have really added some power to these two films and the saga as a whole. Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for a great podcast. Dave in Australia. So first of all, so Finn, you kind of made your feelings clear on that one. It sort of seems to me like you're leaning towards.
I think that Finn should have died there, but it's just that scene doesn't work.
Right.
For the reasons I outlined, it really is quite jarring in between two examples of what she's saying don't do.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me.
Okay.
I don't necessarily know I wanted Finn to die, but that scene doesn't work.
I sort of liked the thing for me that I liked about it was not so much that Finn was dying, but that Finn had been on this arc where he'd started off as this character who was, having a crisis of conscience in the First Order, and then he's gone from that to willing to sacrifice his life in the hope that they can be held back. And that for me was quite a nice arc to kind of round. For me, it would have rounded his character off there in a nice kind of poignant way. But that's not what they went for. It did sort of feel like one of those ones where the carrot was dangled, like, oh, no, you thought it was going to be that way, didn't you? It's not.
Yeah,
but maybe it should have been. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's I'm not going to tell Rian Johnson how to make a film because I've never made a mystery film, and I don't reckon I'd do as good a job as Knives Out is apparently. Because apparently that film is cracking, and I'm really desperate to see it. I can't wait for it to come out on the home release.
As far as Chewie's death goes, I wonder if we might have had that had we not lost Carrie Fisher. And I think maybe they felt they needed to keep someone around.
Maybe. I thought you were going to say, I think we might see something in the Blu-ray release. Really?
Yeah.
it's a different Wookiee after all, and it's just a usurper.
Yes, I agree that the second transport in the air is a bit convenient, possibly because it was a bit of a convenient way of fixing from a second to third draft.
Maybe, yeah. Could be.
I mean, they've killed Chewie before and Star Wars survived.
Yeah, it's true. They did. They killed him off in Vector Prime, obviously, in the Old Legends. Yeah, they took him out good and proper. They sent him off certainly in a more metal way.
Yes, it's like death by man of war, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a Wookiee facing down a moon as it lands on the planet is sort of like, wow, I don't know if I can think of anything quite as badass as that.
No, it was him saving Anakin Solo as well. It was a proper heroic death they gave him.
And that had some really great long-term implications for the characters in that story as well.
Oh God, yes. No,
Yeah,
but
it was
Jedi
impressive.
was a great series.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it's not to say that they haven't done some good stuff in the canon books and some
totally
less good stuff. Like Bloodline's excellent, but there's other ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Seems
unnecessary to drag names specifically.
No, there was a lot of limper stuff in Year as well, but it was good. Yeah. It was really good.
For every Thrawn trilogy, there was a Black Fleet Crisis, and that was not as good.
But there was also the ones which felt like they were Star Trek books that just have the name swapped.
Yeah, like Crystal Star and things like that.
Yeah.
I remember that was the first EU book I ever read.
When you kept going.
Oh yeah. I was hooked by this point. I just thought,
Truce of Bakura be a good one, actually.
Yeah, Truce of Bakura is good from what I recall. I just found myself thinking, man,
Empire was great. I was kind of wish that had stayed in canon, to be honest.
I want to know more about this Hethrir. I thought,
yeah,
this is the kind of guy I can get behind. So no, not really. It's not. Yeah. Which one did you say was good? Sorry, that you wish they'd kept.
Shadows of the Empire.
Oh yeah, I mean that is a good one. I feel like they've still. What's weird is I don't think they've got Shadows of the Empire, but they've got Dash Rendar.
Yeah,
because Dash Rendar is G canonized.
Yeah, there is episode of Force of Destiny that would overwrite part of Shadows of the Empire as well.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean they've done that with. I mean, obviously,
not in a major way.
No, it's not like an enormous retcon.
I mean, it's over a year old. I don't know what your spoiler policy is.
I think over a year you're probably safe.
Okay, they do a story of Leia getting Bush's outfit.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
So again, nothing that would really destroy Shadows of the Empire, but
it's enough to
the same part retold. Yeah,
it's enough to change it. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, the thing with Legends I always kind of really liked, and what I thought they were going to do with it was these are stories that could have happened, but we're not going to say one way or the other. Rather than we're going to basically overwrite and pick and choose the stuff we want out of this, and then
I kind of wish they could have reset everything post Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, and just kept Shadows in the Old Republic.
Yeah. Oh well. I can understand why they did as well.
Yeah,
back to should they have killed Chewie in Rise of Skywalker, Rob?
I think it would have been, how best to put this? It would have been good to see something Rey did have consequences other than everybody's happy and everybody's lovely and they all have cake.
Which was actually one of the titles considered for episode 9.
I think there's some sort of trophy. But yeah, it would have been nice to see her have some sort of, consequences for her actions besides more or less exclusively resounding success. And I think, and like Dave touches on, Daisy Ridley does such a good job with the emotional resonance of it in her reaction that you're almost like, oh, really? Like they walked that back? This is like, there were consequences for her use of the Force. And it was, she hadn't learned by this point why it happened. And I quite liked the intrigue about it.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hang on, only Sith can do Force lightning. How's that happened?
I'm torn between agreeing you and realising that implies I'm wishing Chewie dead, which is an awful thing to be feeling.
I mean, yes.
Join us after a break.
Yeah, it's true. You do have to kind of. It is one of those things about doing this in terms of doing a weekly Star Wars podcast where you go through a lot of opinions. Sometimes you have to process thoughts that you're just like, man, I'm really advocating for something that I'm not actually a big fan of, but sometimes for narrative reasons it makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily a massive fan of Han Solo's death, but at the same time I liked the fact that he kind of took that Obi-Wan role in Force Awakens. Yeah, obviously Force Awakens uses a lot of the kind of a lot of the mechanisms of New Hope to tell a different story.
It's a soft reboot, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically it makes sense that they did it that way too, because you need a film, and I'm pretty convinced of this. I think I've not gone back and checked with this in mind, but I'm pretty convinced you could watch Force Awakens having never seen Star Wars and it would still make sense.
I know people who have done that.
Yeah, and exactly, and I bet it made sense for them, right?
Yeah, totally. I loved it.
Because they make enough of a point of explaining the characters who you need to know about
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all you need. You know, so you just need the context of, okay, who are they and why are they here and why are they important?
Exactly.
And you get all that explanation in Force Awakens pretty comfortably, really. So, you know.
I always said that.
Yeah. So I would, you know, I'd say I was not necessarily, if I was going to kill a character off, I mean, if I had to, in the trilogy, Han wouldn't have been my first choice.
Okay.
But, you know, there's still ways you can do it. You can have, I mean, like, the only one that really grates is the Akbar one. And that's only because he just died. They're just like, yeah, he did. It's like,
kill him off screen, didn't
yeah,
it?
it just seems a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
I accept that within the context of the trilogies, he's a relatively minor character. But he's bafflingly beloved. You know what I mean? Like he's loved beyond his...
never a character trial, was he? Yeah, no, I don't get it.
No, he's meme worthy, ultimately. You know, he's obviously he's been sent up on memes for decades, and things like Robot Chicken and stuff like that kind of gloms onto these characters and sticks with them.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like he kind of took on a life beyond the films. Yeah. And that's not to say that he should be the focal point of the new trilogy. That would be quite a leap to make.
That would be...
There are worse things they could do, I'm sure. But, you know... Yeah. But the point is, you know, it's not necessarily to say that he should be the focal point of a new set of films. Yeah. But at the same time, he probably deserves a little better.
Yeah, on the one hand, I agree. On the other hand, I think that killing off second-tier characters in an offhand manner is a very Star Wars thing to do.
Such as?
Boba Fett.
I mean, I guess, but then that's like one.
Yeah, all right. Darth Maul.
Darth Maul. Is he a second-tier character, or is that just a shame?
In Phantom Menace, he is.
In Phantom Menace, I suppose. But, I mean, he's like the main villain in terms Count of, Dooku. You know... Count Dooku, he's in 2 films. He gets a decent amount of screen time. Okay. He gets a lightsaber fight with his cool lightsaber. Mm-hmm. Is it wildly impractical, or is it just me?
It's what's wildly impractical, sorry?
Dooku's lightsaber. Is it just me?
It's modelled on like a katana style, isn't it?
Oh, okay. That explains why it's so different.
Yeah, it's like an angled blade. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I would find it very confusing to use and would take my eye out.
But at the same time, we're not, you know...
We're not Christopher Lee. We've had to accept that now.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. We've had. Let's be fair, decades to get over this.
Yeah.
I mean it's a long time.
Still hurts.
Sure. But at the same time, it's, you know, it's a long time. We should eat some concrete and harden up, I guess. But... Do you think... As I'm asking this question, I realise that I think I already know the answer before I ask it. Do you think there's a problem in the Disney trilogy of we've got ideas of like we're going to kill one big character per film?
I mean, I came out of Force Awakens going, I hope they don't just kill one character a film, and then, you know, they went off and did that.
Yeah, I mean, the Carrie one, obviously, maybe their hands were tied.
Yeah, I don't know that that's some part of a nefarious master plan.
Oh, no.
Because I don't really understand what end that would serve.
I mean, just getting rid of the old characters and just making way for the new ones. Because it's a zero-sum game. I don't know if you know. The adoration of cinema, is a zero-sum game. In order for it's not.
It's one in, one out. Yeah. You can't like film 2, he killed Luke. Got it right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if I were going to do that, surely they'd kill them all in Force Awakens and then have 2 films, which is just their new characters, rather than slowly doing it a little puff at a time, like the world's saddest soda stream.
Oh, it's funny because they're all a bit like that. Yeah. I don't know with the sequel trilogy. The trouble is, they're kind of. I don't know that they can win either way because they're not only introducing new characters that then they're not killing off, but they're also they're leaving a lot of existing characters kind of around. I think. I wonder if the Chewie thing is because here's a question: would they have killed off Chewie if Peter Mayhew was in better health throughout the whole throughout the whole trilogy. In so much as would they have potentially, knowing that Peter Mayhew obviously was, not a young man, even the health things aside, would they have kind of taken him through the 3 films and then maybe given him a sort of heroic send off in the last one as like a, almost like retiring the jersey?
Yeah, maybe.
But as a sort of, not to by any stretch detract from what Jonah Sumitomo's done, obviously bringing out the character and the charisma of that. A giant rug.
Superb.
Yeah, it's great.
He's superb.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Sumitomo's done an amazing job.
Exactly. But
you can't tell when it's him and when it's Peter Mayhew in Last Jedi.
I can, but only because I've read it somewhere.
Oh, okay. Well, you are.
It just sounded very accusatory.
Unless someone tells you the answers. Yeah.
It just sounded very. You can't tell. It's like, you don't know me.
I passed for diplomatic corps entrance exam.
I didn't. I was woeful.
No one did.
It's really hard. It's super hard.
I'll see if I can pick up a copy and try and do it on air.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's difficult to get a copy.
The EU had quite a good balance of keeping the old characters around but advancing them. Mm-hmm. And even like Wedge was kind of kept around as more like a special force. By the end of the EU, he was almost like a Nick Fury type character, head of this Corsac.
That's a good. That's a good analogy, actually. Yeah, I always liked Paige. Paige was cool. P-A-G, P-A-G, not P-A-I-G-E. I like her too.
Yeah.
But
yeah, she's fun.
Yeah. But P-A-G-E,
they brought in a load of new great characters. Corin Horn, Kip Durham was genuinely still one of my favourite Star Wars characters. Kip Durham was amazing. All these great characters, but they gradually introduced them over a period of like 30 years real time. Mm-hmm. And we may yet reach that point with the new canon, but maybe. Can't expect them to have achieved it in 5 years.
No, I don't know if we. It's not to say that we can't get there with the new canon, but I don't know that they'll give it the legs to actually allow that to be the case. Does that make sense? Like, I think that there's the characters that they've introduced, especially the new ones, are strong enough and still malleable enough that they can tell loads of stories and keep them going for however long they want. I just don't know that they will. It just seems like...
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that they have plans to continue a story on after The Rise of Skywalker. Certainly nothing written in yet anyway.
No, I keep hearing conflicting reports about that. Like that some people say, they've said it's happening, and then some people have said they're not happening. The actors have said they're not up for doing it in the films. But obviously, once they've created the characters, they could go for books, comics, whatever.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know that they will necessarily push the story that way because they made such a big fanfare of this being the end.
Yeah, and obviously the whole marketing push was this is the end of the 42-year era.
Would be something like the Cassian Andor TV series 10 years ago. That would have been, hey, Rob, we're doing a Cassian Andor novel. Cool, pick that up when it comes out.
Yeah.
But now it's a TV miniseries.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to... I think they're going to grow and fill out gaps and stuff. And I think they're probably going to go backwards. I think they're definitely going to do Old Republic stuff. But I suspect from back foot about how far forward they want to go.
Yeah, I keep seeing comic panels making reference to High Republic and things like that. So the idea of this one that people are talking about, where there's lots of Jedi around, it seems like the way they're going to go. And actually, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about that, because as much as I love the Force and lightsabers and things like that, I wonder how everybody having it in the universe will might sort of dilute the pool. I wonder if part of the appeal is that one or two characters in every thing have this special ability that elevates them, and then everybody else is just normal characters kind of trying to make their way in this world where those characters exist.
Well, they could do it, but it would have to be very tonally different. It would have to be like comparing the first and third ages of Middle-earth.
Yeah, I suppose so.
The third age Middle-earth, which is the end of Lord of the Rings is the end of the third age.
Yeah.
So you've got that kind of sword and sorcery thing going on, whereas you go to the first age, it's almost like gods and demigods walking the earth.
Talking about Silmarillion. Similar in era?
First stage is creation of Middle Earth up to the banishment of Morgoth.
Okay.
Second age is from the banishment of Morgoth up to the defeat of Sauron when he loses the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the second age is full of great stories as well, but they tend to be more tales of men who are coming into their own.
Right.
The first age tends to be very magical, reads like Bullfinch's mythology. It reads like myths and legends and biblical tales more than it reads like a novel.
Mm-hmm.
Could they do something like that with like a millennia before? Mm-hmm. Could they do like a myths and legends version of Star Wars? I mean, yeah, they could.
Theoretically, yeah.
But they would have to make a point of it being different.
And
then it'd be up to the audience to see whether they liked it or not.
Yeah, and obviously some people have, I mean, clearly lots of people have different ideas about what Star Wars is and isn't. And, you know, there's no, it's art, right? There's no necessarily bad kind of read of that.
I mean, also it's not actually real.
No, this is true. Yeah, obviously, you know, they kind of get around it with the whole galaxy far, far away thing.
Bloke in the room made it up.
Yeah, there you go. See, it's true. Yeah, he's got a beard and everything.
Yes,
yeah.
Parallels are there.
You mean Trek, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Are you going to watch Picard?
So actually, Gene Roddenberry didn't have a beard. I'm intrigued by Picard, but I don't know enough Trek yet to leap into it. I've only seen a few bits of Next Generation. I haven't seen any Voyager or any Deep Space Nine, so I'm wary of jumping in and getting spoilers for that. So I will do Picard, but kind of in my own time. Yeah,
fair enough. I think my kind of sense is similar. I used to watch Next Gen a lot with my dad, but I was never really. It wasn't on because I was watching it. It was on because he was watching it, and I was also there. So I was wasn't necessarily taking it in when I was sitting there. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the universe well enough to kind of go straight in for it.
Yeah, but, I'm making an effort with Trek and with DC, but I'm kind of doing them at my own pace, partly because I don't want to rush into it. I'm enjoying, just kind of exploring it gradually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something to be said for the softly.
I'm not going to just blitz, from Infinite Crisis onto past Rebirth and through Metal and keep going. I'm just going to enjoy learning bits of DC as I go, and I'm still in the original series for Trek, but I'm doing bits for comics and bits of the books as well. I'm just
kind of picking and choosing.
I'm not speedboating for it. I'm on a cruise.
Yeah. Not motorboating the different universes.
Not motorboating all those green women.
No, indeed. I mean, that's good advice for us all. Don't do that.
It is. As Rose Tycho once said.
Exactly. So, Dave, thank you. Hopefully, those thoughts about green women line up with your point of view on the sequel trilogy characters and the potential deaths thereof.
It's all gone a bit wrong.
Well, yeah, exactly. Listeners, I want to get a sense of your feelings on this. Obviously, we put the question out last week in terms of putting some of your favourites into the mix, and obviously some of you have obliged us. But what's your feeling on deaths in the sequel trilogy? Were there the right number? Yeah. Too many? Not enough? Who knows? I mean, I bet you reckon something. Why not tell us what you reckon?
Yeah.
By emailing podcast@emotionally14.com.
Hux's arc have actually ended.
What's that? Tell us what you reckon.
Tell us how Hux's arc should actually have ended rather than that abomination we got.
Yeah, I still maintain on the subject of Hux that if you do Hux properly in Last Jedi, much as I love Richard E. Grant, you don't need him because you just have Hux. That entire arc makes sense for Hux, the Pride arc.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, the mole thing, it doesn't sit right with me.
No, I think it's just strikes me as
daft. DJ should have been the mole.
Yeah, that could have worked. I still think that with DJ, he should have been the one who'd set the ATST off to blast on the First Order troopers, it turned out to be
an agent of chaos.
Yeah, and it turned out to be M4RY 5UE, or BB-8 as BB-8's known, because that's an entertaining acronym.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'd get your point of view. So obviously I mentioned last week that last week, obviously we did the favourite things from each film. And I mentioned in passing that I'd come up with about half a dozen more questions. Mm-hmm. So I've kept these questions handy. Because as I mentioned, obviously, we would go in and sort of, we'd just go in and pull them out when we need them. So clearly, there's a new book announced, but at the same time, that's some months away. We still don't have Disney Plus, so there's that. Although like I say, it gets closer every week, so that's nice.
It does. Yeah, that's how time works.
Yeah, exactly. I've come to accept that now. So I'm going to pick one at random from here.
Okay.
And for this one, you may have to do 2 answers for some of these. But,
okay.
We'll go. You understand what I mean as we get there. Okay. So for this one, we're going to start with favorite Star Wars video game. And you could have, if you wanted, one from, New Canon and one from Legends, but I suspect New Canon has a short list, because I think to my memory there are about 6.
Battlefront and Jedi Outcast and a couple of mobile games.
Yeah, it's about 6, I think.
Yeah, I haven't played Jedi Outcast yet.
Jedi Outcast is not canon, I don't think. It's a remaster.
Don't mean Jedi Outcast, do it?
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order.
Yeah. Fallen Order is the new one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
which is on my list of ones to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So So in terms of if you include,
you actually got me a PS4 voucher for my birthday. And it's sitting there, and it's torn between Fallen Order and Man of Medan at the moment. I'm weighing it up.
That is fair, because they both are. They both
very much on my street.
Yeah. Fallen Order, I would say, having played some of it, is good. If you don't, it sounds, I don't mean it as harsh as the instinctive was, if you don't like a challenge, it's hard work.
Okay.
As in, like, it's a hard game. It's kind of got that same kind of vaguely Dark Souls.
Oh, really?
Mechanics, but at the same time, you can, and in fact, I keep meaning to go back and do this. You can drop the difficulty down to what's called the story mode difficulty, which is just I just want to see how the story plays out, and I don't need to be especially reamed.
Yeah. Which favorite Star Wars game?
Yeah,
I do like Battlefront 2. I have a lot of fun times with Battlefront 2, but I don't know if it necessarily crack my favorite. It's Star Wars paintball,
Yeah, it's fun.
It's
well supported as well.
Yeah, they've done a great job of it. I don't understand the negativity behind it, and I think it. But I don't know. It'd be my top favourites all time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than Star Wars chess. Which was woeful.
It really was quite bad.
It doesn't help, but chess is something of a Marmite game anyway.
Sure. Yeah, there is that.
Yeah, but I would also say that people who are really into chess to a deadly serious level probably aren't buying animated Star Wars versions to play. I
think that's totally fair. They would probably, a person who's really enthused on chess and likes Star Wars would probably have a really nice physical version instead.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some of those really, really nice ones. You know the kind?
Yeah.
Sort of £500-600 a go. And they're all beautifully sculpted pieces that are,
There was an Aliens set when I was working in London in Forbidden Planet. It was absolutely beautiful.
Only imagine how nice that was, because I can't picture it.
Yeah, okay, I'll try and find a picture for you at some point.
Yeah, no, please do, because I would very much like to see that.
Yeah, trying to think. But yeah, the Star Wars, it was not only it was basically a poor man's battle chess.
Yes.
It wasn't as funny as battle chess.
No.
And maybe it was just my computer was powered by 2 hamsters, one of whom was paralysed.
Right.
But it seemed like as it was loading the animations, it took forever to load up this animation, and it would play the same loop of music again and again as it waited for the animation to buffer. But it wasn't a clean cut of music. It would cut off halfway through a note, sometimes really jarringly.
Yeah.
And you just get this little Yoda theme cut off abruptly through a flute note 84 times in a row before Yoda shuffled across the board.
Yeah, woe betide anybody who moved Yoda from one end of the board to the other, because they were there for 48 minutes.
How else are you supposed to castle?
It's true, yeah. Just man. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that sometimes. When you bring it up, is the first time I'll think about it for some time. And that's a good world. I like it when it's like that.
Certainly not Masters of Terraskazi.
No, this is also fair to say.
Yeah, with humorously named characters.
Yes, we've been there.
we've been there many times.
Yeah,
I love Rogue Squadron with all of my heart. It was Star Wars afterburner and just so much fun. I loved Dark Forces. Mm-hmm. I liked Force Unleashed at the time, but it didn't date well.
No, that's true.
Galactic Battlegrounds, of all the real-time strategies, Galactic Battlegrounds is the one I liked most.
Yeah, the Star Wars Age of Empires.
It wasn't some of them like Rebellion and Empire at War got really meta, and Galactic Battlegrounds is more of a skirmish game, which I generally enjoy more.
Yeah. Speaking of games that haven't dated well, Rebellion's combat modes, the game itself is actually still quite playable, as much as it ever was, because the thing is with Star Wars Rebellion is not an amazing game. It's fun. I really enjoy it, and I've sunk countless hours into it over the years. I think it was released in 98 or 99, and I had a copy very soon after it came out on the PC, and I played a lot of it. And it had rudimentary multiplayer, because obviously in those days that was pretty much what you had when it came to Star Wars games. Was that and the Jedi Knight multiplayer, which was Jedi Knight 2 was enjoyable multiplayer, but I think that was a few years later anyway. But it was the space combat engine was atrocious. Even then, it wasn't great. It just looked nice in comparison to some other stuff, but it's just not very well executed. It was to the point where it was so. Here's an example, right? I accept that capital ships will have a harder time shooting starfighters. But the absence of any capital ships in a battle, right? So the absence of any starfighters in your squadron, shouldn't you mean you automatically lose? Which it did in Rebellion.
Oh.
So if you had one X-wing up against a Star Destroyer, the Star Destroyer would have to flee, because only starfighters and starfighters could actually destroy each other, which struck me as unusually... incredibly irritating.
You say certainly in our Armada, the tabletop game, it is hard for the capital ships, because all they've got is just those anti-aircraft guns, almost trying to chuck in a flak to try and slow them down. Now you do get the odd hits, but it is I've got nothing else to do, might as well use the ACAT guns, try and stop them, which
is fair enough, right?
Yeah, but it is similarly hard for stuff, unless they are built to be bombers, so something like a TIE bomber or a Y-wing. It is hard for these squadrons to damage the big ships as well. Oh yeah,
to be clear, it wouldn't ever result in the big ships getting destroyed. It would just they would just flee.
No, I mean certainly in Armada, if all your capital ships are destroyed and you've just got squadrons, you automatically lose.
Oh wow, okay. So it does work the same way.
The other way around. Oh. If your army is just X-wings, you would lose. Yeah. You need to have capital ships to be worth fighting.
So that seems more like what I would expect, or closer to it. But Rebellion didn't have that. Strange. Rebellion also had this hilarious mechanic where when you began the game, bearing in mind, right, I'm going to paint a picture for you galactically. The Rebels have just destroyed the Death Star.
Right. Okay.
However,
first one.
Right. Okay. However, you are the Empire. You are in power across the largest, reach of the galaxy.
Yep.
So obviously they had to balance the game for making it not impossible for the Rebels to win, but it does require you to play differently. How many Star Destroyers do you reckon the Empire started with?
What Imperial class?
Yeah, or no, any kind.
Oh, any kind.
Just in total.
I'm going to say thousands.
Two
Imperial class Star Destroyers.
2 Star Destroyers of any kind.
No Executor class.
Nope. You had to research those. Yeah. So
where's the Emperor and all this?
Coruscant.
Oh.
Yeah. So one of the Star Destroyers is at Coruscant.
Lazy git.
Yeah. So to be clear, one of the Star Destroyers would be at Coruscant, and then one would be on another random planet the Empire controlled. Mad, right?
We need to do an audio recording of us playing the Rebellion board game. I feel like there's mileage in that.
I think people would enjoy it. I certainly would.
Yeah. I mean, if worst case scenario, you and I play Rebellion, which is always a good time.
Yeah. I need to fix the issue with my audio recorder that means I can't publish our game of Outer Rim. I realise I haven't actually mentioned to you that there's an audio, there's a technical problem, but there's a technical problem, which I can't get the files off the card. It's apparently a known issue with the recorder. If you use the memory card without formatting it first, it puts it in a format that computers can't read.
That's handy.
Which is weird because if you got the recorder and the memory card's plugged in, you can play it on the recorder and you can hear it's on there.
So you'd have to the only way to get it off would be re-record it manually, I guess.
Yeah, and
this is really, really interesting. Well, people have come here for Star Wars content.
Thrilling, of course. But yeah, I'd have
Star Wars
to do that.
Game. I'm going to go with Dark Forces.
The first one, the very, very first one.
Yeah, but I still love Jedi Knight as well. I think Dark Forces I played more. Although I will say Jedi Knight is the only video game I've played that's gotten lightsaber combat right.
Well, did you ever play Jedi Knight 2?
Only briefly.
So this is the one that's Jedi Outcast. So that's the one that they remade for PS4 and Switch recently.
Yes.
I think it's already on Steam, so I don't think they've done anything for that, but they've done a remaster for PS4 and Switch, and it's
cool.
It plays like a relatively game of the time, really. It's not, it's not terrible, certainly.
Yeah, no, Dark Forces, for me, I think I certainly have the most fondest memories of playing, with the caveat that the one I will always play if I see is still the wireframe Star Wars sit-down arcade cab.
Oh, another one, yeah.
Yeah, if I see one of those, I'm playing that thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I might have to pick Jedi Knight, the first Jedi Knights of the second Dark Forces, because that was a whole fun thing.
That's one with Jarek?
Yes, yeah. Just because I remember that was back in the days when I, as a PC gamer and as a young sort of, I guess, mid-teens, or early teens.
Yeah, I was about 14, 15 when I was playing it, I guess.
Sounds about right. So I would have been about 12, 13. And we not long had a computer, a proper one that could actually play games. So I followed Jedi Knight in the magazines. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
I followed it, anything I could get my hands on in terms of information about Jedi Knight, because back in those days, that's all you had was magazines that released once a month, and maybe they had a couple of screenshots in. And obviously the screenshots would be terrible, really, if you look back on them now, but you would still be excited because for the technology, that's all you had. And I still remember the first time I switched on the lightsaber in Jedi Knight. I just remember thinking, oh man, this is awesome. And I remember panning the camera all the way around him, just like letting it, that sort of idle thing where if it goes quiet, the camera just starts rotating around the character.
Yeah.
I think they had that, and I just kind of let it run because it was just kind of cool to just see a lightsaber in a game for the first time.
Yeah.
I must have put a cheat in at some point after I finished the game, because I remember being able to use the lightsaber on Nar Shaddaa, and that shouldn't have been a thing because that was the first level before you got it.
Yeah.
Either that or it was part of a demo or something.
Maybe.
Remember demos?
Yeah.
Yeah. On the front, on the ones that were on the front of the magazine on a disc.
Yeah. Sometimes they worked. Yeah.
Sometimes they worked. Sometimes they were playable. As in, sometimes they were playable. Sometimes they were just trailers. Yeah. Back in the days, that was what happened.
Good times.
Yeah, I
100 demos on CD-ROM, 4 of which work.
I actually find, myself nostalgic for those days when information was less easy to come by and you weren't bombarded with it all the time. You had, there was something about the kind of, you had to go and seek it out, and there was there were receptacles of information that you could kind of access at particular points, but I feel like I'm almost less well informed, broadly speaking, about everything than because of the wealth of information. You don't know where necessarily to start. Yeah, because every time, I'll give you a practical example from my life. I've been trying to learn to code, and obviously I work with a lot of developers at my work because of the nature of the work I do. When you tell developers I'm trying to learn to code, what happens is you get bombarded with a deluge of YouTube channels, websites, tutorials, Medium articles, blog posts, all this stuff, and it's all great stuff. And the people, and there's no
They're
kind
trying
of
to help.
Absolutely, and they're all very kind of nice about it, and they all want you to succeed ultimately because everybody likes to be able to talk to more people about their things they love, right?
Absolutely.
But it just, as a newbie, you just kind of get completely overwhelmed with like choice paralysis. I can get like that trying to choose a chocolate bar out the fridge. Fridge? Vending machine. I can get like that trying to buy a vending machine at Curry.
I'd be like that trying to get a vending machine out of the fridge.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to choose a vending machine when it comes to choosing from the even bigger vending machine.
Next thing you know, you've been asked to leave Curry's.
Exactly. And I'm just like, well, I didn't bring it with me. Of course I was going to leave it. So,
anyway,
Dark Forces and Dark Forces 2 are, rather comfortable answers in terms of a spread. Let's expand the question. Tabletop.
Okay. Best Star Wars tabletop game
of all time.
Star Wars Rebellion.
That's the high one on your list. All the ones they've ever released.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Star Wars, with the exception of West End Games, Star Wars RPG, Star Wars tabletop gaming was pretty awful until X-Wing.
Okay.
It was mostly like Hasbro, Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, Star Wars Monopoly, which has its place, but it's not what someone who's actively a tabletop gamer craves. I'll say Wizards of the Coast, they never gave Star Wars the love it deserved because they had massive cash cows in the forms of Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, two of the biggest tabletop franchises ever.
An established one, no less, as well.
Yeah, and Star Wars Lucasfilm had no real interest in supporting the tabletop RPG, and basically the Wizards of the Coast Star Wars RPG was Dungeons and Dragons, almost like a find replace for lightsabers over swords.
It was the D20 one, wasn't it?
It was.
I think I have the book for that somewhere.
Yeah, it wasn't a system of. Maybe it wasn't a system I was a fan of, but I've never been a Dungeons and Dragons fan anyway, so it just. I'm not saying it was good or bad. It was just never going to be for me.
Yeah, it's a hard sell.
So I've gone back to the D6 West End Games RPG, which again, it's one of those. If I had a little more free time, which unfortunately I don't at the moment, I'd love to do streaming or recording us playing some Star Wars RPGs. Yeah. Maybe we'll work it into. Fireman Radio or something down the line.
RPG podcasts are something I'm listening to a lot, and
I love them.
Yeah, they're really entertaining. Thing is, I find myself going. It's almost like it's late to the boat. So it's like if you do it now, it's just going to look like you're doing it because everybody else is doing it, rather than just because you want to do it. But there's that kind of there's that cynicism of, and it may be just me kind of projecting my own thoughts onto the broader sort of persona, but when I look at there's a lot of them, and like I say, not to impugn any of their quality, because there are some tremendous RPG podcasts out there, and I listen to some on the regular, and they're part of my regular rotation, and when there's a new episode I will devour it. But I just it strikes me that there's always a kind of when the iron's hot moment to get in there, and I feel like that has long passed. And anything you do,
if I was going to do it, it's just because I think it'd be fun to do.
Yeah,
I thought people might enjoy it. That'd be the only reason. But I would do it.
I know what you mean, but and that's always the best reason to do anything. But I think that people it's not even so much that people would look on it cynically. It's just the likelihood of people even finding the time to give it a go because of the wealth of such good options out there might make it just prohibitive. Might not make it worth the outlay, because RPG podcasts, from listening to them, are hard work in terms of like the amount of to make it sound good. The amount of editing is tremendous. Like something like this, like when we're doing what we're doing now, I usually have to make a page of notes of bits and pieces of maybe somebody coughs or says something. They then go, actually, can you take that out because it's libelous or whatever. It's been known. It's
he says, glaring pointedly at me.
I don't think it was you that time, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was. I accused David Collins of stealing my cheese.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but we've accepted that. We've accepted, right, that he didn't do it.
So that was satire.
Just checking, just making sure. Yeah. Just making sure I don't have to then go back and do this one.
Absolutely no. It was all in fun.
Yeah,
cheese stealing.
But I do find myself kind of. It's not to say I would never do it, but it just. I don't know. It just.
Basically, what you're saying is you want me to do it and you to be on it.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
You keep telling me how busy you are. You have to pick one.
Yeah. No, this would be something I would love to do, but it would have to be a down the road project for me.
It's a tremendous amount of outlay. To make it sound high production value, which they all, like I say, I feel like everything has to be now because the barrier to entry to putting out a podcast is so low now, and that's generally a good thing. Obviously, you run into the whole quantity and quality debate, but at the same time, you run into that even when the pool is when the pool is shallower. You run into that problem. There's still going to be more. It's Pareto.
You could probably do it with a smaller pool of players. Maybe a GM and 3 players would work.
Maybe I wasn't necessarily talking about pools in the sense of anyway.
Anyway, favorite, but the Star Wars Rebellion for me is because X-Wing's fun. I love Legion, love Armada. Outer Rim is so much fun, but Rebellion for me is felt the most like it genuinely feels like you're making up a new Star Wars story, or an alternate Star Wars story when you play it. And I think it's because much like Star Wars itself, the scope of it is huge. It's galaxy spanning. You've got super star destroyers and Death Stars and calamari cruisers and squadrons of X-Wing fighting these massive battles across the galaxy. But what actually drives it is individual actions. It's Tarkin does something. It's Leia's on this secret mission, and it's that which makes it feel Star Wars. It's as big as Star Wars, but it's as personal as Star Wars, and they've managed to capture that in a board game. And this isn't some massive Avalon Hill Hex war game that takes 28 weeks to complete.
No.
This is a brand new Star Wars story that feels huge and personal at the same time and wraps up inside 3 hours.
Yeah.
Rebellion is perfect for me.
Yeah, it's not like a Twilight Imperium, great a game though that is, where you have to write off a day.
Hey, I love big games as well. War of the Ring is one that I managed to play like once a year maybe and clear the whole day for. And it's great. But Rebellion it's pure Star Wars. It's big and it's tiny and it's so much fun.
Yeah, I think if I have to think about tabletop Star Wars experiences, 2 that stick in my head are one of the sessions of the Star Wars RPG we played when we had designs of a campaign.
I tried to keep him alive.
I know. You did. Yeah, you did everything you could. You can't help when the enemies roll that well.
No,
and when the other saving throws are that bad.
I felt so bad for that little Ewok.
Yeah, I know. But, the important thing is we've never forgotten.
He was jumping up and down on top of a bunker, waving his arms to distract an ATST.
It worked.
It worked. He was distracted. I'll give him that.
It was super effective, as they say in Pokemon parlance. It was super effective. Ask for Chachu Cortez. Never forget.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
that's something I love about RPGs is those stories that endure.
Oh yeah. I feel like I'd love to believe I'm responsible for a couple.
Totally. And yeah.
The Powder-Driven Benghazi Flashbulb,
darling.
That was RPG. I feel like I think it was just a random Arkham Horror. I think it was just a random Arkham Horror where I just decided to play.
We play in character quite a lot anyway. So
and I played the actress as just a massive lush.
Yeah.
Play what you know, darling.
Yeah.
It strikes me that the 2 that stick out are the first time we played the RPG. I think it might have been the second session that sticks in my head, because the first session was the one with Aswat Chachu Cortez.
Yes.
and then the other one is basically every game of Rebellion since then.
Yeah,
so it's just. I think I'd have to concur. I think Rebellion is the one that I associate with the most kind of hilarious memories of.
Yeah,
it's things like playing a 4-player game where somebody like Dave or our mutual friend Paul is trying their best to strategize, and then they're on the team with me.
Yeah.
Or you're sat across from, you're on a team with Dave, and Dave's very good at games. He's sitting there planning out, and then you look over and me and Blake are giggling, and you have no idea why until we then just do what we've been giggling about and blow up Dantooine because reasons.
Yeah, you did.
That was entirely my justification as well. I remember it well.
It really was.
Yeah, it was literally that. I want to blow up Dantooine. Any particular reason? Nope. I have my reasons. Boom.
Yeah.
They know what they did.
Well, that time my dad managed to turn Leia to the dark side.
I think has he not done that twice? I feel like he's done that twice.
Yes,
yeah. He's got a theme, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Just corrupting Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so okay. I mean, we're broadly aligned. I know what you mean. The Star Wars tabletop thing is tricky because there haven't been that many really, really standout ones. Mm-hmm. I do like the Clone Wars version of Risk that we've played before.
It's good fun.
Yeah,
fun memories.
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar with that one, you're playing Separatist versus Republic, but Order 66 is building up on a counter on the side, right? Mm-hmm. And then when the Separatists enact it, all the Republic planets have to flip for loyalty, have to roll the dice.
You just find that there's suddenly CIS across the whole.
Yeah,
galaxy,
exactly. Yeah, which is quite a cool mechanic because also it can go horribly, horribly wrong. In which case you're left with.
Until Order 66 is called, both players can use Anakin.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Order 66 obviously is then entirely CIS.
Yes, indeed. Something like that. I forget the exact mechanic. It's been a while since I played it.
Yeah.
And then the Star Wars Risk that exists now.
It's supposed to be very good. So it's basically a retheme of Queen's Gambit, isn't it? Which is supposed to be one of the best.
You got the three basic plot lines from Return of the Jedi playing out in real time, depending on which card you flip when you do your action. So you get an action where you can do one or another. I have to dig it out. It's somewhere in the somewhere in the drawer.
Well, we could do it for 500 even.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. I mean, why not? Indeed. But apart from that, I've played a little bit of X-Wing. I have a few ships. I don't have much in the way of second edition stuff because I just haven't really played it in a while. Mm-hmm. I have the Rebels, the Rebel second edition stuff because I went and bought the conversion kit, but I don't have the Empire one. I tried to buy a copy the other day and didn't win. It was an eBay auction. Okay. Other services are available, but not at this price. So
imagine that happening in a normal shop. I tried to buy it and didn't win.
I mean, that happens to me quite a lot. I go in, try and buy it and don't buy it.
Because the vending machine's stuck in the fridge.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's a vending machine gets stuck in one of those bigger vending machines that dispenses them. It's just like, oh man, this is typical. This is where they get it from. This is learned behaviour.
Yeah.
It's inherited.
Nature versus nurture. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. When it comes to vending machines, that's the eternal debate, isn't it?
So we're both coming down on Star Wars Rebellion for that one.
Yeah, as much as I am finding myself kind of gravitating more towards Outer Rim the more I play it. Because I'm at three or four games now. I do have a copy. I just don't.
It's so good.
Yeah. That's one of those ones where
it's reaching the point for me now. I'm like, do me some more cards now.
Yeah, I could go for another character or something, just like a standalone,
Hondo,
yeah, like a Hondo or just like a standalone thing with a bunch of extra, like another additional segment or something.
Or do just a box of cards would be great. Just mix some more stuff in. Yeah,
or just go off the beaten path and just put something in, a bit more. I don't know. I feel like if you did cards, you'd have to kind of you'd end up having to flesh out because it sort of feels like you'd have to flesh it out to keep people on the planet for longer, and that would probably defeat the point of Outer Rim, where it's like about the sort of swanning up and down the galaxy doing stuff.
It's basically Star Wars Elite in a tabletop form.
Yeah, and I've heard it compared to the Firefly game, and it looks the part in terms of it looks like there's a lot of similarities there. Yeah. And I've heard the Firefly game's very good. I've seen very good, lots of very complimentary reviews of it, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But in terms of, otherwise it's like Legion, I like it. Armada, I like it less, but I still like it. But Rebellion is the one that always stands out. It's just, and I think it's also got the advantage of like it's had a decent amount of support in terms of expansions at the right level. So it's not like it's not having loads of little card packs that are sort of bombarding it, but there's also it's got one expansion for Rogue One, and that's about it. And that's cool. That works for me.
I'd be surprised unless another film out of nowhere is announced for that kind of time period. I think it's closed.
And I think that's fine. I think it's it doesn't need to be.
Totally, it doesn't need. No, it's. Hey, Fury of Dracula never got an expansion.
No, exactly right. I mean, there was never a big.
It was just perfection.
Never did Fury of Dracula 3000.
Oh God, can you imagine?
I really try not to.
Can. Yeah.
So actually, there's a question, like a little spin-off question almost. It kind of derailing from the favourites for a second. If they did a tabletop game themed around the Disney era, what would you lean towards?
See, I think Imperial Assault would have been better off served in the sequel era, and obviously I appreciate it happened before the movies did, but Imperial Assault, the dungeon crawl, would have been better suited to like the covert operations of the Resistance than it would for Rebel Alliance. Yeah, and Force Awakens I was amazed Force Awakens got an X-wing set when there really wasn't a lot of dogfighting in it.
Yeah, it's only really Takodana, isn't
Palace it? And Takodana and a little bit around what I now know as Ilum.
Yes.
But whereas there was quite a lot of ground skirmish fighting in Force Awakens, I always felt like that would have lent itself more that way, but not to be. There is a complete fan-made sequel expansion for Legion, and it looks incredible.
Oh wow,
These
really?
guys have gone absolutely nuts for it, including like 3D printed source models, they've done the cards and everything. It looks amazing. And I love that. I love fans who do that kind of stuff.
Oh, you got to admire the dedication.
Just go nuts and do these things. You
got to admire that, especially the people who do the I'm always impressed, even something as kind of shonky as the Macho Man Randy Savage mod for Skyrim. Because I just have to admire, the imagination who goes, you know what, this dragon needs to be more like famed wrestler Macho Man Randy Savage. And then go and find...
all replaced through Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, it's like they go off and have to go and find... I watched it again the other day, and I didn't notice this in... there's a sound effect I'd never caught before, which is when the dragon's off rumbling in the distance. It's, Macho Man's coming to get you. Never picked up on it before. But it's just that, and they're just like, what is that? What is that noise? And it's just like, but the imagination to then go, right, I need a Macho Man Randy Savage sound effect that's just about sneaking off and finding, like creeping up on people. Like to go and sift through that stuff, it takes true dedication. You have to admire it. Yeah, I think it's fair to say.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So what would you imagine So obviously the only thing they've done for Force Awakens, like you said, they've done an X-Wing set and they've done a few ships for X-Wing. Yeah. And then they've done an adaptation of the Force and Destiny RPG. Because they did a Force Awakens era one in like a box set, which I almost picked up actually a few times.
I feel like we will get something, but probably once the dust has settled a bit and the creatives are more unshackled and they don't have spoiler warnings and stuff to worry about. So maybe sort of this time next year we might start seeing more sequel era stuff. As far as I'm aware, there's no embargo or anything affecting Fantasy Flight or Asmodee's use of the sequel era, because as you say, they've done X-Wing and Destiny crossed over into it as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about Destiny.
Yeah, so I think it will happen, but I think maybe it's a conscious decision on the creative's part to let the dust settle a bit.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say. I mean, there's always the possibility that, they haven't necessarily fleshed out what Project Luminous is going to be. There may be some tabletop stuff attached to that. Who knows?
Very possibly.
Yeah, I know it's kind of...
It's just a game book.
Well, this is it. They've talked about
which they've done authors. Quite a few of.
They're talking about authors being involved. There's no reason why it couldn't be that.
They've done quite a few game books past few years.
Have they really?
Yeah, there's been a few Choose Your Destiny stuff, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you want to do another question, or do you want to wrap up for the night? Entirely up to you.
Let's do one more, and then we've got three
more
for next week.
All right, sounds good. Let's see.
Why don't you like me?
Favorite Star Wars planet? You can do that across all the media.
In what context? As in, would like to live there, or just kind of like and
just
think
the
it looks
cool
cool?
factor.
There's no planets I want to live on.
There aren't many, are there? They're all kind of because they're all so unique. Like the climate's also universally.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to live in Tatooine. You wouldn't live. Yeah, but that's kind of Star Wars thing, isn't it? One climate planets, which I quite like.
Yeah, I can sort of see. I mean, if everything's so connected that a short light speed run will take you there, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I mean, probably really the nicest planet to live on would be Naboo.
Yeah.
But I just get the feeling with Naboo, there's a lot of poetry reading taking place in coffee shops.
Right.
There's a lot of trips to art galleries.
Okay.
It's, I mean, I think I'd hate everyone there.
Maybe.
It feels like the hipster planet.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think my pick
pre-Raphaelite hipster. That's what it looks like.
Wow, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. It's interesting. I think I would be intrigued by Takodana, actually. It looks quite verdant.
It's mostly forest.
Yeah. The only thing I wonder about that is it doesn't look like there's a huge amount there. As in, it's Maz Kanata's castle, and that's about it for all I know.
There. I mean, you fly over a bit of it in Battlefront. There's a big lake you can fly over.
There you go.
Yeah, so you can go fishing, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, for all we know, bits of Camino are lovely when it's not raining.
True, yeah. I mean, that is a fair point I hadn't considered. Because, again, it's like, there's... I'm guessing the Caminoans have got some sort of underwater breathing tech. Or even they're biologically...
They look vaguely piscine, don't they?
Yeah. Like they've looked like they should be able to breathe underwater. Fish. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. No, but it seems like they must be able to breathe underwater because in episode 2 there's obviously that one where the creature comes out from the water and then sort of jumps out as like a nice sort of visual.
You got like
and
a
it is
fish,
rather impressive.
Yeah. I mean, Geonosis looks horrible. It just looks like a termite hill.
Oh, Geonosis looks awful. Yeah, it's very formic. I suppose it's just because...
Again, it's just... Utapau doesn't look fun.
No, Utapau looks like a pain to get around as well.
What's there to do on Utapau? Do you want to count the face grooves again? Yeah, sounds like
it's like, what's your commute? Oh, I'd have to jump on a lizard for 6.5 hours.
This massive whooping lizard.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't seem like much fun. See also, Mustafar.
An Exegol,
yeah, exactly. They're not seen as.
So where are we? Is Moraband no longer a thing?
Is Moraband the one?
It was Korriban was originally at Sith Homeworld, which then got with the new canon for reasons known only I've got renamed Moraband.
Yep.
Exegol seems to have come out of nowhere. I don't know why they didn't use Moraband.
I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't know. I sometimes wonder if they know about some of the stuff. Like, as in, have they got, like, do they have access to these books? Are they forbidden from going and buying them?
Well, I think that's why Dave Filoni became such a fan favourite, as he did know this stuff and he did use this stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I suppose I think I don't want to say it's I don't want to say his popularity is just down to fan service, but I think there is a certain level extra that he does. Mm-hmm. That people seem to glom onto. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one to countenance. It looks like Moraband doesn't seem to have. Is that the one where the Mortis arc? Oh no, it's Yoda goes there and has all the visions.
I believe that's Mortis.
Oh yeah.
Who wrote the Beatrix Potter stories?
Peter Rabbit, right?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, it's an autobiography.
Yeah.
So Moraband's
favourite planet. I think visually, I think Mustafar is great, I think probably commuting around Mustafar probably has a few moments of that was exciting, followed by a fiery death.
Absolutely.
I mean, to live on, I mean, Coruscant's probably all right.
Cloud City seems like it's nice.
Cloud City seems all right. Actually, you get a free ice cream maker when you move in as well.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's nice. Yeah.
I mean, but then someone's got to clean out the Ugnaughts.
Oh, that's true. But then, I mean, ideally, at least after a couple of years, it wouldn't be your job still, would it? You'd hope you work your way up.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're the Ugnaught cleaner and you're still in that position after 5 years,
rethink.
Just
rethink. Just have a think about, is that still what you want to be doing? And if it is, then great, good for you. Like, more power to you. But it just strikes me that after 5 years, you should at least be kind of taking a step back and just going like, is this what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? Because I'm cleaning up a lot of bolts, on a daily basis. And then there's the poops. Just seems like
the correct term for Ugnaught spore was a bolt.
Yeah, no, it's not.
No.
I'm actually going to say
Kashyyyk don't look bad.
No, that's true.
Kashyyyk looks right. We only ever really see Kashyyyk when it's war torn.
That's true. Yeah,
I imagine generally Kashyyyk's quite nice.
Yeah, I think it probably would be fair. Yeah, I think that's a good pick actually. I was going to say Cloud City, but actually Kashyyyk might be nice. It looks like it'd be quite quiet if you. Yeah, I think the thing with Kashyyyk is the difference between that and Takodana, which is why I might actually go for Takodana over of the two certainly. Is I can imagine a scenario where I'm like, finally some peace and quiet on Kashyyyk, and then you just hit from far away, and then another one joins in, and then basically like outside my flat sometimes there are drunk people arguing. And I just imagine that you get a lot of that, but except they're not drunk, they're just roaring at each other because that's just how you say how's it going,
so
how are the kids.
Kashyyyk but quieter is basically Ahch-To.
I mean, kind of, although Ahch-To strikes me as a little bit more tricky to traverse.
Yeah, but
doesn't seem like there's a lot of food there either. Takodana seems like it might be all right.
Takodana seems like the best compromise so far.
Yeah, it's got a decent pub by the looks of it as well, like a decent sort of. It's a good amount of floor space.
Yeah,
and you know you don't see a lot of people in Takodana bumping into each other. If you watch that scene, there's a lot of characters sort of traversing it, and there's not actually a lot of them bumping into each other, which is pretty. I think it's a testament to its design, really.
Yeah, let's go with Takodana. I think it looks the nicest place to live, but we must far be the most visually impressive.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a disconnect to be. There's two questions to be asked. There is, like, say, some of these have, I think, two answers depending on how you frame the question. I think from a visual perspective, things like Camino look incredible. Practically, it's just a pain. It just strikes me as a pain.
Yeah.
It's like, we've got 3 cities, and the only way to get there is underwater. It's like, brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like nobody think to put, I mean, not for nothing, but we got ships. Like,
I bet they've got pop-up shops as well.
Where's that? Sorry, on Naboo.
Naboo. Yeah. You just know it.
Every single one's a Pret veggie, not even giving you the choice.
25 quid for some crisps with some barbecue dip.
I've walked past it. They're shut now.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised.
If any planet is going to have a breakfast cereal cafe, Naboo.
I've never thought of, in all the questions of which planet of the Star Wars universe is most likely to have a breakfast cereal cafe, I'll be honest, that one never entered my head.
But it's Naboo, isn't it?
It is Naboo. Yeah, now you've said it, it's hard to get anywhere else, yeah. Because you think about also like Theed, just the capital, like the streets of Theed.
Just look at them.
Yeah. And you just look around.
And just cheese on every alleyway.
Yeah, homemade cider. So apple juice then.
Yeah. Gone off apple juice.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've made it a bucket. Yeah. That's what that is.
Well done. Not to bemoan the hard work of artisanal ciders who do good work.
Yeah. All given really like Teehee names as well.
Nubian craft.
Yeah.
I don't know, some other ones, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll come up with some in a minute.
Captain Arples.
Palpatine's finger.
Yeah. Don't lick it.
Right, just a little bit.
Captain Arples is my best one so far.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just... Oh, yeah, Naboo, man.
Well, there's an episode title if ever I came across one. Yeah. Naboo, man. All right, listeners, I'm going to hold off on the I'm going to hold the other ones back for later, and I'll try and curate this list as I go. If I think of a good one to add to it, I'll flesh it out. So
that sounds fun.
Yeah, I think
got a mailbag.
It kind of. I am a male. So, listeners, thank you very much for listening to Talk Star Wars this week, episode 198. As we creep closer and closer to 200, if you've enjoyed the show, much like Andy and Dave and our mystery reviewers and people who message us everywhere and say how much they like the show, because there's loads of them, then you can do so you can subscribe to it on all the different platforms like Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts, things like that. We're not on Pandora. As I say, we touched on it last week. We're not an Avatar podcast, and that's fine. I'm all right with that. Those movies are perfectly adequate, but in my estimation, overrated from being at the cinema in 3D.
Yeah.
But, that's just me. What do I know? But if you want to subscribe on any of those platforms, we're available. And also you can get it on things like YouTube and bits and pieces like that, and Spotify and Spreaker. And if you go to talkstarwars.co.uk, that will take you directly to a podcast page. You can just play the episodes in line, or you can go on emotionally14.com on a Monday and it's there, and you'll be able to play it on a Monday morning. Or, there's options. There's another option in addition, especially if you don't want to wait till Monday. You can actually get Talk Star Wars on a Saturday. And the way to do that is to go to patreon.com/Talk Star Wars and donate just $1 every month to the cost of keeping Talk Star Wars running, which are, not not trivial, but at the same time not insurmountable. So the amount, every little helps.
We have bills to pay.
Yeah, exactly. Although, don't stress too much. They're not. It's not like a kind of.
If you could travel all the way to Naboo to buy some cabanos from CO Bibble, then you can afford to give us £1.
Exactly. Or 673p or whatever it works out as.
See, we're making it easier for you.
Exactly. See, we're making you money.
Yeah. Look at CO Bibble's beard. There's a hipster.
Oh man, you must contact me.
Must we?
But if you contact me, obviously it will be cool, and I won't want you to do it anymore. So there's that. But
you must contact me on vinyl.
Patreon.com/Talk Star Wars for gold like this a couple of days early, and you get an ad-free version as well, because obviously we put ads in the show to sort of in the same way just contribute to sort of our not insignificant, not trivial running costs. And patreon.com/Talk Star Wars is the way to sort of most directly support us, and also, as I say, in return you get an ad-free version of the feed, which drops on a Saturday, so you get a couple of days. Yeah. You get to feel the warmth of Talk Star Wars a couple of days before the rest of the world, and isn't that worth $1 a month? I'll leave you to make your mind up. Patreon.com/Talk Star Wars. On the website emotionally14.com, every Monday you can find the show, the normal non-Patreon show, and you can also find things like YouTube series. There's other podcasts. There's lots of links to other podcasts. We endorse a bunch of shows like syndication almost. And some of those you're going to hear about again in a couple of minutes because they're part of the Star Wars Commonwealth Network, which we're also part of. So you can go to emotionally14.com and interact with all the social channels via Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Emotionally14. Search for all of those and you'll find them. And speaking of social media, Brad, tell us a bit more about yours.
Yes. Well, if you want to catch up with me in more than one Star Wars themed show, you can also check out my other show on Emotionally at 14, which is Fire When Ready, Adventures in Star Wars Tabletop Gaming, where we play Legion, Armada, Outer Rim, and all other sorts of Star Wars-based nonsense. And you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Fire When Ready UK. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, then I'm on Twitter and Instagram at RealBradHB. And if you're feeling especially indulgent, you can pick up my books through Audible and Amazon.
Lovely. And you can do so, especially with the audio, Amazon rather, you can use the link that's on Talk Star Wars and on emotionally14.com every Monday, and it will take you directly to Amazon, and you can search for the books there. I can be found on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision. Tends to be a mix of video games, replying to people, and various things. A few of my favourite things tend to be what I talk about on social media when I do interact with it, which is, beyond the website capacity in a relatively limited context because stuff to do. What can I do?
Yeah. You have a life outside of a show.
There you go. Right. This is it. So I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Rob Wade Vision, but also if you're talking to Emotionally 14 and Talk Star Wars on Twitter, then you're generally talking to me. YouTube, it could be either of us, but Twitter and Instagram is me. So, yeah. Also, Talk Star Wars is part of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, one of the proud founding members of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. And that includes, in addition to Talk Star Wars, Tumbling Saber, the Generation X-Wing, the Rogue Squadron, the Nerd Room, the San Diego Sabres, Retro Inc., and the Sandcrawler Cast. There's 8 shows with wonderful content being produced every week. We are happy to be affiliated with them, endorse some of them, and, like I say, be in a network with the rest. And you can find out all about that on the web at StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Thank you very much for listening to Talk Star Wars, episode 198 this week. Don't forget, as I say, put your questions and comments in a podcast at emotionally14.com shaped email, especially letting us know what you thought of the number of characters who moved on into the Force in the sequel trilogy. Was it too many, not enough, or just right? Let us know what you think. I may even put that as a poll on Twitter. Who knows? So, thank you very much for listening this week. We will see you next week for episode 199. And in the meantime, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and until next time, may the Force be with you.
McClunky.